Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. With 2 games to go for me, the most important things are actually already clear in this group. I will be able to play in the upper bracket of the next stage, DiddleySquat and Allfather will play in the lower bracket of the next stage, and Gmaku sadly will be eliminated. But in the 2 remaining games, there is still something at stake. First of all, of course, those games still count towards the clicker rating, and also if I should manage to win the 2 remaining games, then I have a really nice amount of points, which should put me in the top seeding basket of the next stage. And with that, maybe I could potentially avoid meeting some of the top opponents already in the next stage, so that could still be important. And also, of course, for most parts of the games, it wasn't already clear that the standings will be like that. So I hope you are still excited for the 2 games to come. And the game that we are taking a look at today is a 3-player game where I will play against DiddleySquat and Allfather. I'm playing in the second position in this game, and first of all we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. There are some lab leaders in age 3 with Einstein, Sid Meier and Steve Jobs, but no Bill Gates. There is, however, the Spaceflight and Manhattan Project, so definitely some science synergy there. There is also Chaplin, Marlene Dietrich in the Hollywood, so going for theaters could also work quite well. There is Pierre in the game. There is no Gandhi. There is the Red Cross. In age 2 we have some strong wonders with Ocean Liner Service and Suez Canal, also the Railroad is there. And then we have one military action leader with Robespierre. Maria Theresa is there together with the Ocean Liner Service. There are some culture leaders like Bach, Anthony Gaudi and Darwin, Newton as a strong science leader, and James Watt to maybe catch up with the economy, also together with the railroad. In H1 we actually have no military action leader, which means that the Colosseum could maybe be decent in this game. And we have Nostradamus, Genghis Khan to potentially help with the strength, Michelangelo and Eleanor as some interesting leaders, Isabella as a solid leader maybe in a colonization game, also Columbus could work nicely in a colonization game, and then we have Gutenberg for some lab and printing press synergies. We have the 2 science wonders with Silk Road and Universitas, the Machu Picchu is the Himeji Castle and Forbidden City. DiddleySquat is in first position. He has some interesting picks. There could be an engineering genius, but he ends up going with Hammurabi. And then for me, it was clear that I want to take the engineering genius plus one of the other cards. Both Homer and Cleopatra kind of require a wonder that they want to have. The Hanging Gardens is maybe not the ideal wonder to get, but there are still pyramids and library in the game, so there is a decent chance that I could get one of those wonders, so it could be considered to go for Homer or Cleopatra, but I also don't know for certain if those wonders will come out of the deck. I don't know how easy it will be for me to take one of those. And also there is a Suez Canal in the game, there is Caesar and Sun Tzu coming down the row. My opponent just took Hammurabi, and with that it was relatively clear for me that I want to go for the Colossus here, and at the next turn I should be able to either go for Caesar or Sun Tzu. It could be the start of a strength push against Hammurabi, it could be the start of a nice colonization game with the Suez Canal, and with that I think the Colossus has a lot of potential, and I was very happy to get him together with the engineering genius. Allfather will then go for Homer and urban growth, meaning at my turn I can even decide if I want to go for Caesar or Sun Tzu. And as we can see, there's actually neither pyramids nor the library revealed, which is maybe not ideal for Allfather, who was maybe hoping for one of those wonders with Homer. DiddleySquat will then go for Hammurabi, builds a mine, increases his population, is not willing to overpay for one of those wonders, and instead just grabs some yellow cards. Now it is my turn, and at my turn it was basically the main decision if I want to go for Caesar or if I want to go for Sun Tzu. And I think both leaders could definitely be perfectly fine here. I think there are definitely some players who value Sun Tzu a little bit more because he's maybe a little bit more reliable with more draws that you get and a tactic that you can upgrade. On the other hand, Caesar can maybe just go a little bit more wild, with maybe allowing that the event deck can be pushed even more quickly, potentially with threatening a double aggression, which could be annoying for DiddleySquat, and with the engineering genius there's a chance that I can maybe finish the Colossus relatively quickly. And also I can hold more cards in hand, which can be a bit of a disadvantage. With Sun Tzu you can maybe draw a lot of cards, but it's not that easy to hold a lot of cards in hand. And with that I at the end rather went for Caesar, but I think both the leaders could potentially work out. But I think with having the Colossus, I mean it synergizes with both of those leaders, but at the end I went with Caesar here. and then I just built a mine and increased my population. And I was happy to see that I do draw 2 events, so I can maybe start with pushing some events into the deck, and the Crusades is even a strength event where I maybe now have an advantage to win this. Allfather builds the lab first with the urban growth, wants to get some science first, elects Homer, increases population, and will now go for the Colosseum. With having Homer, of course, he wants to have a wonder. Colosseum is maybe not ideal, however, with me maybe going for a strength push potentially, the military action, of course, could also still be quite useful. Then it's DiddleySquat's turn. He will build a second lab. The interesting question now will be, is he willing to take the Hanging Gardens? But as we can see, or he could still take the Hanging Gardens, but as we can see, he doesn't. Instead, he just grabs the Iron for 3 civil actions. With that, he has something to invest his resources into, and then can maybe just go for an H1 wonder directly. There are definitely some interesting ones in the game, so I think that could be a good decision. He sadly is missing 1 science to go for the Iron, so he could maybe be hoping that there is a nice development revealed, and then he can, which could then allow him to start his Iron upgrades very quickly. And at my turn, I will start seeding first with the Crusades, just in case the development of politics is revealed, which could give me more events. So always start with the event that you want to have in the deck even more. And then the development of settlement is revealed first. And then I also see the rebellion, which is of course a bit tricky. I don't know yet how nicely I will be able to be prepared for it, but I also will have knowledge about it. I just want to push the deck forward. I mean, Allfather has Homer on the Colosseum, so I was not too happy about pushing the rebellion, but I still was willing to do so, just so that the deck is progressing more quickly. Now the development of planning is revealed, and the options for that are development of trade routes, politics, or warfare. Politics could potentially even be interesting, especially because I will actually taking Columbus this turn. But I, at the end, just went with the value of development of trade routes. Development of warfare is maybe not that great. I mean, there was a development of politics, development of settlement revealed. So I have an additional population. I could take the warrior this turn and still have a population to build a second lab. But the development of trade routes with having the engineering genius will also allow me to either build a second lab this turn and then guaranteed have enough resource to finish the Colossus at the next turn, or even gives me the option to finish the Colossus already this turn. And with that, at the end, I just went for the value of the development of trade routes. I could just do something like build the first step of the Colossus with the engineering genius, build my second lab, and then take Columbus and maybe then increase my population with the last civil action or take the urban growth. I want to take Columbus here because I just think with the Suez Cannon in the game, with having Columbus, he has a lot of potential. He can allow me only with his 1 colony already to maybe have a shot at getting the Suez Canal, and with having the Colossus there is always the chance that you could get lucky and maybe draw on a very early H2 colony, which then is quite a lot of value to get with Columbus. And for now I can maybe just keep Caesar, keep getting to, then I can maybe still just continue drawing more cards, seeding some events into the deck, and maybe cause a little bit of issues for the other players. And yeah, I could start with building the lab, but at this turn I was willing to delay it for hopefully only 1 turn, and I will start with finishing the Colossus. This has 2 advantages. First of all, I will go up to 4 strength, and with being Caesar, with potentially being able to threaten a double aggression, that could already be a bit annoying for my opponent. Sadly, I don't have any payoff card in hand, not 1 aggression or something already, or a big strength event. But just the threat could already maybe force some awkward turns out of my opponents, especially for DiddleySquat, who doesn't get a lot of draws with Hammurabi. I was hoping that maybe Allfather will take Nostradamus, because he maybe wants to have a leader to replace Homer relatively quickly, and Nostradamus could be quite helpful against Caesar. So I was hoping that he maybe will take him, so the DiddleySquat can't get Nostradamus as an easy solution against the strength, and then I just was hoping that maybe it could force some annoying responses out of my opponents, but it's not the only advantage. The other advantage is that now I can not only take Columbus, I can also take the urban growth, because with not having built a second lab yet, I just have a very nice way to invest that immediately, hopefully at the next turn, and with those 2 reasons combined, I was willing to delay the lab. miss out on one science, and I mean, you know how much I like science in the early game especially, or basically in the whole game, and so it's not something I do too regularly, but in this case I wanted to just put some pressure on my opponents immediately, and also it allows me to, as said, use the urban growth quite nicely at the next turn. This turn is maybe not ideal. I have some colonization cards now, but for now there is no colony in the deck, and if I should draw one, I maybe want to hold it back for Columbus potentially, but at least I have the medieval army tactic now, so that I can maybe go for strength push potentially. I was not too happy to see this open borders agreement. That of course will make it a lot easier for both of my opponents to defend themselves, so that's of course not something great to see. Allfather then takes the Code of Laws. He won't go for Nostradamus, instead wants to maybe get an additional civil action already the next turn thanks to the development of trade routes and to building the lab first instead of the mine. He will have enough science for it already the next turn. Interestingly, he's also building a warrior. He doesn't really need it to defend himself now that he has the open borders agreement, but maybe he also just wants to make use out of Homer's resources. Then it is DiddleySquat's turn. He will go for the iron this turn thanks to the development of trade routes. It is possible for him to do so. He then takes Nostradamus, is even willing to elect him immediately, so doesn't want to have Hammurabi any longer, and maybe he just also wants to see what events are seeded, and with that is willing to elect Nostradamus already. Is also willing to go for the Machu Picchu with having some iron production that of course can potentially be an interesting wonder. On the other hand, there's also Universitas coming down the row, so that could potentially also be interesting. Maybe he could have taken the Knights and then maybe went for the Universitas at the next turn. There's maybe a chance that the Universitas will be denied, but it would be quite costly for me, so I think that could be an interesting alternative. But the Machu Picchu, of course, also has quite some potential. And then he will increase his population with this last civil action. With taking those two cards, the Knights will even fall down to one civil action for me, which I was happy to see because I have drawn a medieval army tactic. And with having no event to seed, I made a decision to offer the trade routes agreement to Allfather, and I want to use resources as food. Just because I thought I have this tactic, I have the Knights, if I should be able to get some population out quickly, I can maybe go for two tactics, which could potentially cause some trouble for my opponents. And Allfather is at the moment at 1 food, so it is maybe not bad for him to just use the food as resource, but it could also mean that he could be stuck at the current amount of population for a while, and then he has only 1 more population to maybe potentially put into the military, so it maybe helps him, but could also be a bit of an issue to not get more population out, and I thought that for myself it could be nice to just get some population out quickly, and then maybe if I should draw some aggressions or big strength events, I could have an advantage because I have just more population available for the military. Then I of course want to get out of corruption this turn. I will build a second lab. I will increase my population using the trade routes agreement immediately. Then I have 1 civil action left. That sadly will mean that I miss out on the cartography. So that of course if I should draw some colonies now could be nice to have in hand, but I didn't draw any colonies yet. There aren't any in the deck. I can get 1 with Columbus for free, so I wasn't willing to pay 2 civil actions for the cartography here. And now with having 1 civil action left, I at the end just took the patriotism, because if I should draw some aggression or strength events, then it could just help me to even build up even more military, and to maybe then after that still draw 1 or 2 cards, so that I which just could be nice, especially with me searching for a colony for Columbus. I will now trade some resources into food, so now getting some resources back is maybe not too bad. The theology could potentially be nice to have as a happy face solution, especially with me having seeded a rebellion into the deck, but with Pierre being in the game, I didn't want to commit a civil action into taking a theology yet. Oh, actually, all of the bread and circus are gone already, so that wasn't a reason during the game. I think I had an eye on that. So yeah, actually because of that, I even considered it quite a bit. I think if there are some bread and circuses left, I think it would be a clear decision, but it actually was a closer decision. Now I remember it. Because all of the H1 happy face solutions are gone, and it could be a bit annoying if I have some issues with the rebellion and don't have an easy way to fix it. But with me having C-Sign, also now with DiddleySquat having Nostradamus, I was hoping that maybe the event deck will just be revealed relatively, or the events will be revealed relatively quickly. Then I could get a free religion with the development of religion. If not, I can maybe just build a religion, and maybe if the rebellion will be revealed before age 2, which could allow me to dodge it without needing 2 happy faces. So, and with that, I at the end rather wanted to have the patriotism than the theology. I will draw some more cards, another colonization card, another medieval army tactic, 1 event, so maybe not the ideal cards to see. Ideally, of course, I wanted to see either some aggressions or strength events, or a nice colony for Columbus, but at least 1 event that I can push into the deck. Allfather will take the cultural heritage this turn. This will allow him to this turn develop the code of laws, but still have enough science to go for the alchemy at the next turn. He isn't going for Gutenberg, however. I think he could maybe be an interesting option, so that he can replace Homer. Who knows when the other leaders will be available, and then he can just get some activations out of Gutenberg. But I mean, with having the alchemy already in hand, it's maybe only 3 activations at the end, and so maybe he wasn't too happy about it and rather build 1 stage of the Colosseum already. Then DiddleySquat seeds and opens the development of science. He will take the irrigation, that is of course nice for him with having the Machu Picchu. He will also take the rich land, interestingly, which is quite costly, especially with having the Machu Picchu. Of course, the rich land could maybe help him to get everything done a bit quicker, but on the other hand, he might also need a lot of civil actions to invest all of the resources in a nice way, and so maybe instead of building the stage, could have been an idea to spend more civil actions on just going for some upgrades, but then maybe he still had to spend 1 civil action at the end, and maybe he didn't want to commit to any of those cards for 1 civil action, and at the end he just went for this, and maybe wanted to finish the Machu Picchu, maybe also to have the option to take another wonder, potentially. My turn, I will see the cultural influence. It's a relatively neutral event at the moment. No player has a wonder that produces some additional culture. And then the development of religion is revealed, which I was happy to see, because that could help me to be safe from the rebellion. I again increase my population with using the trade routes agreement at the next turn. I can increase it again thanks to the pact. And then the question is what to do. I have 3 cards in hand. I don't want to elect Columbus yet. I want to keep Caesar for a little bit longer, so I have to make a bit space in my hand, and I also thought it's not too bad to maybe start with building a knight and using the patriotism. I really want to use the patriotism because that allows me to build a knight while still drawing 3 cards, so maybe having a shot at getting some aggressions or events. And then I have 1 civil action left, and that I just used to take the rich land, which allows me to maybe go for some mine upgrades quicker at some point. With me wanting to draw as many cards as possible, I was willing to discard a colonization card in order to keep the medieval army tactic in hand for now. And again I draw another colonization card, only 1 event, so after the 2 events at the beginning I was not too happy about what I drew, but at least I have the tactic, so that's still something to work with. The new deposits could be a bit tricky, because the DiddleySquat will have the Machu Picchu, and I have to ask myself the questions if I'm willing to put it into the deck, which could potentially allow him to get a lot of value out of it. Allfather will finish the Colosseum this turn, takes the swordsman in hand, takes the reserves, develops the swordsman, and with having 2 warriors already, developing the swordsman will allow him very nicely to spend over the resource of Homer this turn and also in the next turn. And there's Isabella coming down the row, so that might be a leader that he wants to go for. DiddleySquat seeds, so now the event deck is flipped and the development of markets is revealed. He will take the free religion, builds a warrior, so builds even another warrior. That could mean that he is a bit afraid of potential strength events being in there. He then reveals the legion tactic, has no reasonable amount of strength, takes the monarchy, and then goes for 2 iron upgrades this turn. Doesn't finish the Machu Picchu yet, interestingly, and then also takes the drama. There is Bach in the game, so that could also be a nice card to have, especially if he gets a lot of population out with the irrigation plus the Machu Picchu bonus. This turn, as said, the question is if I want to seed the new deposits or not, and I am the strongest for the Crusades. I want to get the rebellion out of the deck, otherwise it could be a bit annoying, so I was willing to seed. I will go for iron this turn myself, so hopefully I will also get a bit of value out of this. And while the DiddleySquat might at the end get the most resource out of it, he also has not the most science at the moment, and is low in civil action, so maybe he will have some issues at the end to actually spend the resources nicely. And with that I was willing to seed the new deposits. The event revealed is indeed a rebellion, and yeah, I was just happy that this is out of the deck, that it didn't cause any big issues for me. And this turn I will go for the iron, I will go for 1 upgrade, and then I maybe make a mistake here, because as you can see there are only 10 cards left in the deck. I will take 1 card from the row, so after my turn there are 7 cards left in the deck, so I made a decision to elect Columbus this turn, just because there's the chance that the age will end and I don't want to miss out on a civil action, especially with only being on 4 civil actions, and I think overall that's also just a very reasonable decision. But when we take a very close look at what cards are actually on the row, I think the chances are actually quite big that there will be one more H1 turn, because Allfather, the cards that he can take away for 1 civil action from the row that aren't in the discard spot will be Alchemy, Code of Laws, and Eleanor. Both Alchemy and Code of Laws he can't take. He could go for Eleanor, that could be an idea, so it's definitely possible that he might want to go for her. It's relatively late and she is a nice transitional leader, but maybe he also wants to go for Isabella, especially because maybe he won't have the most strength, especially with being a bit low in population, and then pushing a lot with Eleanor could potentially be punished. And no, but even if he goes for Eleanor, with him having to also elect her, maybe wanting to go for Alchemy or some stuff, I think it's maybe unlikely that he takes more than 1 card from the row, and then DiddleySquat would have to take 2 cards from the row, and he doesn't have the most civil actions. He probably wants to finish the Machu Picchu, and also when we take a look at the cards that coming are maybe on the row for him, the drama he has already in hand, the printing press he maybe doesn't really want to have, Michelangelo he can't really take, maybe he just takes the breakthrough. And with all of this, I think there's a very, very good chance that there will be another H1 turn, and maybe because of that I can maybe keep Caesar for 1 more turn. But there's maybe also a small chance that the age will end, so I think it's also not too bad to elect Columbus, but maybe a small misplay, because I can maybe hope for another double seed and also 1 more draw maybe at with keeping Caesar. I will use Caesar's military action to reveal the tactic and elect Columbus, and then go for 1 more for 1 more mine upgrade. I still haven't drawn a colony, which is a bit worrying, but I still will get some draws, and especially the Colossus maybe can help me to get a colony. I draw 2 more cards, no colony, but the Reign of Terror is maybe an event that I can seed into the deck, with hopefully being able to not be the weakest. Allfather will go for 1 more Swordsman, using the resource of Homer again, will go for another upgrade, making sure that he is a bit stronger. He will go for Isabella, so he has now a new leader, makes the decision against Eleanor, and then with his last 2 civil actions he will just take the breakthrough. And he doesn't seem to have a tactic like Legion or Fighting Band, otherwise I think it would be a correct decision to reveal it now. It's DiddleySquat's turn and he seeds. The scientific breakthrough is revealed. Not a lot of science is gained, but maybe the 2 science is actually for all of the players still quite helpful. DiddleySquat will go for the Code of Laws, doesn't want to be stuck on 4 civil actions. We know from some of his games that we saw before that he likes it quite a bit to have a lot of civil actions. And now it will maybe be a bit easier to invest the resource of the Machu Picchu, but maybe also a bit more difficult to go into a government form. And he then, with his last civil actions, takes the Alchemy, which gives him on one hand maybe something nice to invest into. On the other hand, it is quite late. Maybe it could be nice to wait for some nice stuff from H2 and just hope that there will be something nice. He could have, I think, increased his population instead. So I'm not sure about his Alchemy pick. He has already not the most hand space, so that could make it a bit more tricky for him. And maybe just hoping that there will be something interesting from H2 could potentially be better. But if there's nothing interesting, then of course it could also still be nice to have the Alchemy around. Then, as we can see, it is indeed still H1. And I also have no colony, but I can use my politics phase with seeding the Reign of Terror. I'm the strongest at the moment, the Crusades are in the deck, maybe there are some other strength events, so I was willing to seed, and indeed the Crusades are revealed, I get some culture, and Allfather will lose some. I then go for my last mine upgrade. I will also increase my population, this time without using the Trade Routes Agreement, because I just don't want to be stuck with 2 food, that even with the pact I wouldn't be able to increase my population again. And now I have 2 civil actions left, and now it's really not too easy how I want to spend those. I could take the Silk Road, but I'm very low in civil actions, and I really don't want to block myself from an early ocean liner service or potential Suez Canal, so I don't want to take the Silk Road. I could just take the Swordsman. I think it could be a fine pick just to have it in hand, but with having a lot of resource production, I think the Riflemen are just a lot better, and one of my opponents is already committed to Swordsman, and I could take the Warfare just in case I get a Republic, so that I'm not too dependent on strategy. So there are some fine cards. At the end I just went with, first of all I will build one Knight, which makes me even stronger. Potentially, for example, Allfather could have drawn the Legion tactic by now. If he just reveals it at his next turn, he will be at 8 strength, and if I stay at 7 strength, then DiddleySquat could seed, well, with me being the weakest. And there are no more strength events coming that I have seeded, but DiddleySquat did put a bit of effort into going into this Legion tactic. Has Nostradamus, so he could have maybe seeded an event. Also, Reign of Terror will be coming at some point, so I have to build this unit maybe at some point anyway, so maybe it's better to build it now to use miss out on H1 draws instead of H2 draws. So I think this Knight should be quite nice, and then I made a decision to just take the drama. There is Bach. DiddleySquat, maybe because of that, has also taken drama already. There's also Marlene Dietrich and Chaplin later in H3. There's also Anthony Gaudi, so I just thought the drama has some nice use cases when I use Columbus. Hopefully at some point I maybe want to get a replacement for him as quickly as possible, so opening up myself up for some more leaders is not bad, but I was not willing to take the printing press. It could of course potentially be nice if I get Anthony Gaudi, but I just thought it's very unlikely that I will actually be able to make nice use out of it, and I didn't want to have too many cards in hand where I'm not certain if I will be able to use those. That could cause some hand space issues at some point, so I just floated my last civil action. I was happy to see that I draw the developed territory now. That is already quite a decent colony, and it's just nice to have a backup colony, but there will also be now the Colossus draws happening, which of course I was very excited to see what I will get. And I was also very, very happy to see what I got here, because I actually get lucky here and draw the vast territory too. That is of course really, really strong to get now with Columbus, and yeah, I was very happy about this Colossus draw. Allfather seeds, he is the weakest, could potentially get punished, and he actually does get punished. The call to arms is revealed, so building the Knight did pay off immediately, and yeah, I was happy to not get hit by that, because I have really not the most civil actions, and if there's something like an early ocean liner service or another interesting card like an early government farm, it could just be very, very bad, missing out on some civil actions. Yeah, at least my opponents will get some H2 draws, so if they draw something interesting, maybe it could be fine for them getting hit by it. Allfather, interestingly, will go for the Silk Road. He could potentially go for the Alchemy, but maybe he doesn't want to commit to it yet. He has a lot of yellow cards in hand, so with that maybe he has some options to get quite a bit of value out of them immediately. So I think the Silk Road is quite nice. Of course it blocks him from potential strong H2 wonders, but I think the Silk Road is not a bad decision, and we can maybe leave himself open a little bit longer for something like Scientific Method, which would work nicely with Newton. So yeah, I think the Silk Road is fine here, but just going for Alchemies maybe would also work fine. And this turn Allfather can adopt the Legion tactic. DiddleySquat did reveal it earlier, and now he is at 8 strength. So it was actually guaranteed that he can go up to 8 strength, because the tactic was available to copy now, which made the Knight even more important, because otherwise I would now be the weakest at DiddleySquat's politics phase. He seeds, and the cultural influence is revealed. It is the last event from me, so no strength event and 1 culture for everyone. DiddleySquat has some uprising issues at the moment, but he can just increase his population to fix those. He goes for the Swordsman, which I was happy to see. Of course, it helps him to get more strength, which could be an indicator that there are some strength events coming. I mean, one of those I seeded myself, the Reign of Terror. Maybe they are coming even more, and that helps him to get stronger, but it maybe also makes it even more likely that I will be able to get the Rifleman at some point. Going for those upgrades also helps him to get out of corruption, and then with this last civil action he takes the rich land, but he has no full hand, and this it could definitely lead to some issues. He has a lot of resources, and if he will be able to spend those nicely, then his position can definitely turn out to be nice, but he has also some issues with his big hand that he has at the moment. And he goes for even one more upgrade. And at my turn, I can't really keep a lot of cards in hand, so I didn't want to wait with using Columbus and just went for the vast territory immediately. That's also nice because it allows me to spend some of my civil actions to increase my population so that I don't have to spend all of my civil actions to just take some cards. So also in that regard, it is very nice to have drawn this colony. I can increase my population one time, and now the international or the trade routes agreement is again coming in handy because I can, after building this warrior, which I wanted to do to get stronger again, because again, DiddleySquat, his turn was a bit of an indicator that there are maybe even more strength events in there than only the Reign of Terror, and Allfather has two reserves in hand. He could just play it for 3 food with the Silk Road. Maybe that was actually one of the reasons why he went for the Silk Road. And then he can increase his population, maybe build one more swordsman, and again, if I don't build this warrior, I would be the weakest on DiddleySquat's turn, could get hit by the Reign of Terror or the strength events, and with that I wanted to build a warrior. And yeah, but the trade routes agreement will also allow me now to increase my population even one more time, just spending a civil action there already instead of having to take one of those cards that I maybe don't really need. And as you can see, I just end up taking the breakthrough. Of course, I could take something like Engineering Genius and Reserves, but I think, especially with the new deposits coming, I will have more than enough resources. I have already 2 free populations, I maybe also don't need a food from the reserves. And I could also take some H2 cards from here, but I just think the science is what I need most, and with that I was willing to pick the breakthrough one for 2 civil actions here. At the end of the turn I have to decide what I want to keep in hand. I have 2 H2 colonization cards. Of course it feels bad to discard one of those, but I still made the decision to do so, because I have now 1 colony already, and if there's a Suez Canal I just want to have a colony in hand, and hopefully I will draw an H2 colony at some point, but if not, and then the developed territory could potentially be a backup. I mean, with only getting an H1 colony, the Suez Canal, with already only having 1 colony before, it's maybe not that strong that I then necessarily have to go for it, but it could still be a nice option. And also if I draw an H2 colony, it could also be nice to still have the developed territory around to seed it into the deck to maybe then get more value out of a potential Suez Canal. I don't draw a colony yet, but an event that I can maybe push into the deck. Allfather seeds, and there is indeed a strength event on top immediately. He gets punished, gets hit by the Reign of Terror, which is a bit annoying for him. He has no free population. All of the population is doing something important for him. He makes actually the decision to lose a mine here, which I'm not certain about, because I think maybe he should just lose the religion, keep the economy going, and because the happy face he doesn't really need at the moment. So I think, I'm not sure if I would lose the mine. Maybe he is eyeing this coal that is coming down the road, and with going for coal, maybe it could be fine to just stay on 2 mines, but yeah, maybe just keeping 3 mines would still be nice. He plays the reserves for food, that allows him to increase his population. He takes the knight, he goes for the knight, builds for knight, and then takes the reserves. And it is actually quite interesting that he goes for this knight. He won't reveal a tactic, so he will stay at 10 strength. So even with building this knight, he is still the weakest. So either it could be a misplay from him, but there are some possibilities where the knight could make sense, because one event that could be in there is the foray. So with him building this knight, maybe he could have seeded the foray into the deck, or he maybe just wants to be prepared to bid for some colony potentially without losing too much strength and then being in danger of an aggression at my turn. So those are maybe 2 valid reasons to build this knight, because if he doesn't have knowledge about such cards, then it's maybe just an investment that he doesn't really need to make. And yeah, but it could definitely be an indicator that either foray could be coming, or maybe some colonies. And then he draws 3 cards. DiddleySquat doesn't see it, maybe he doesn't have a nice event in hand. He will go for the irrigation and get some food production going, and he will also take this early Bach. With both of us having dramas in hand, maybe he doesn't want to have me Bach, especially because I need a new leader, and Bach of course also has quite a bit of potential, especially with the nice food production that he will be getting, but he is also now on very low science, and it could still be a bit tricky to handle this Machu Picchu with him being on that low science, but yeah, Bach definitely gives him a lot of potential, and I think it definitely makes sense to go for him here. And then he also goes for just 1 more upgrade to his farms. Now it is my turn. I am willing to see the international agreement into the deck. I still want to keep the developed territory in hand. Both of my opponents did put some effort into getting stronger, so there maybe are some more strength events coming. And there is indeed the foray, which was maybe the reason why Allfather went for the knight. Now he gets maybe rewarded for that and gets some additional food or resources. I of course was also very happy to see this event. And this turn, it was quite a bit of a tricky decision for me. As you can see, first of all, I will take 2 resources and 1 food from the foray. Yeah, because I won't increase my population this turn. I could do it still now with the trade routes agreement, but maybe at the next turn, and then I can maybe just manage it to be stuck at 0 food. And yeah, as you can see, I go for Robespierre this turn because I'm relatively low in science, and I think he could just make it a lot more easy to get into a government form very nicely. And there is actually one on the row, so one turn that I definitely considered was to just go for Robespierre and take the Republic. It's all a bit costly, I would have a lot of corruption, but I would be guaranteed to do a Robespierre revolution at the next turn. I would then have 7 civil actions, and that just could make stuff a lot easier for me. If there's scientific method, I would have a lot of civil actions to go into that, and also enough science thanks to the revolution being that cheap. Also the Suez Canal or ocean liner service, also railroad could be a lot easier to go into with having a lot of civil actions. So that was definitely one of the main options that I considered, and maybe I should have actually gone for it. But I also thought a revolutionary idea is quite an interesting card, because there is another copy of Republic, there are copies of Conmon, and maybe it could even have some advantages to have Conmon, because it could allow me to play a bit more military heavy against Bach if the opportunity should arise. So that could maybe be fine, and the revolutionary idea with all players being low in science could just have a big impact. I thought Allfather might not be willing to take it for 2 civil actions if I take the Republic, meaning that then DiddleySquat would get a revolutionary idea, which could just be a very helpful card for him. So I didn't really like it that he, if I just pick the Republic, maybe gets the revolutionary idea, which could make stuff a bit more easy for him. And then I miss out on this copy of Republic, but as said, I can maybe just hope to get another copy of Republic or Conmon relatively soon. And at the end I will end up taking the revolutionary idea. I think there are some arguments for it, but I think I should have taken Republic. It's not a completely clear decision, but it could be that I have to wait maybe 2 or even 3 more turns until I get another government form, meaning that I will be stuck on 4 civil actions for even longer. And while the revolutionary idea is a nice card for DiddleySquat, the Republic is as well. He can just take it and maybe somehow set himself up for a revolution, even if it costs him a lot of corruption, and after that he has 8 civil actions, and if he then gets a nice wonder or something, then he can maybe invest those resources nicely and end up being in a nice position. So yeah, I think I maybe make a misplay here. Because I take the revolutionary idea. That has also one more advantage, because it allows me to elect Robespierre already. That definitely was one of the arguments why I went for it, because that one draw could just be very important, with me maybe wanting to go for the Suez Canal at some point, so increasing my chances to draw an H2 colony is maybe quite nice. Also, of course, it just makes it more likely that I get a nice tactic. If there is just another copy of Republic or Conmon available very quickly, maybe that could turn out to be fine. But there is a chance that I have to wait a bit and be stuck on 4 civil actions, and I think I should have taken just the Republic and not elect Robespierre yet. Let DiddleySquat have the revolutionary idea, because maybe it's not even that great for him. He still has some hand space issues, and it costs him some civil actions to take and play it. Probably it's of course still a very helpful card for him, but maybe the Republic could potentially be even more interesting or even stronger for him. So I think that could potentially be a misplay. But yeah, hopefully I will get another government form at some point. There's also the first copy of Selective Breeding coming down the row, but with my nice yellow bank, with me having some free population, I don't think taking that over the revolutionary idea is a nice pick, because there will be a second copy. There's an ocean liner service, so hopefully I will be able to fix my population income at some point. And also, of course, as you can see, I was very happy about my draw. I draw the autonomous territory, so from now on the Suez Canal is definitely a card that I will have an eye on, and hopefully will be able to get. Allfather this turn will go for Cole. There is even James Watt and Selective Breeding on the row, but with him having had 5 cards in hand at the beginning of the turn, or actually not 5, 4, it was not easily possible for him to go for James Watt and Cole and Selective Breeding, and maybe at the end it was just not worth it, would cause some corruption, and instead he just keeps Isabella, can still go for 2 Cole upgrades immediately, which is quite strong for him, especially because the new deposits will be coming, takes the Selective Breeding, and with that he's then still prepared for another leader, and so I think it makes sense for him to not go for James Watt here. Now it's DiddleySquat's turn. He seeds, and the Dark Ages are revealed, which is definitely a bit costly for me. I will lose quite a bit of science. And the DiddleySquat is low on science, and at least gets a bit rewarded with that now, with not getting hit by the Dark Ages. He will take the Republic, elects Bach. He somehow needs to make space in his hand, and then he wants to develop the dramas. Doesn't cost him really a lot of science with developing it with Bach, and he builds 2 dramas immediately, gets him out of corruption, starts a lot of cultural production, and at the next turn he can maybe just do a revolution to Republic, and after that has 8 civil actions. And after seeing this turn, I really came to the conclusion that I should have taken the Republic at a turn before, because I think that is just more impactful for him now than having a revolutionary idea. So I think that was maybe a misplay at my turn before. And also, as you can see, sadly there will be no government form for me available yet, so I might have to wait a little bit longer until I get one. I really wanted to see it here because I'm the strongest. There might be even more strength events in there, and also one of the events is the new deposits. Opening that now could be a bit tricky for myself, but maybe could also make the revolution for DiddleySquat really awkward. He has already 4 corruption, but he has so many resources saved up. I think he should just do the revolution, unless there are some really important cards in the row. But with the new deposits being revealed, then it could get really a bit of a tough decision to actually do the revolution. So I wanted to make it more likely that it will be revealed before his turn, and also I'm the strongest. I hopefully will be able to get the Suez Canal, so I seeded the developed territory into the deck, and I was happy to see that the uncertain borders are revealed. I got another yellow token. My yellow bank is definitely quite nice now, and DiddleySquat will lose 1 yellow token. I can increase my population with using the trade routes agreement. I wouldn't have used it if the uncertain borders wouldn't have been revealed, but now that I have an additional yellow token, I can use it, and if I use it again at the next turn, I can even get another population, or I have a lot of resource anyway, so I think this pact is doing some nice work for me. And now, of course, the big question is, how do I want to spend my turn? I have 3 cards already in hand. I don't have a lot of hand space. The Organized Religion could be a fine card to have Happy Face Solution in hand, but it's maybe also something that I really need in the near future. I could think about architecture and just developing it, preparing myself to finish a wonder more efficiently, and I still have enough science to go for a government form. But I might also want to go for military tech, some other technologies like scientific method, or maybe strategy if I should get a Republic with Robespierre, so I didn't really want to invest my science into that. And at the end, I just made a decision to go for the drama and build 2 dramas, and then with also building 1 knight, that even gets me out of corruption. And a knight could be nice because I maybe want to make a bit, and maybe even an army or something like that for the developed territory soon anyway. And with getting it, with it helping me to get out of corruption, I definitely want to build it. And yeah, the dramas, I don't have any synergy for it, but with having my nice yellow bank, now I will have enough happy faces for a while. I'm using the additional population that I have, and yeah, I mean, at this stage of the game, I normally don't like it too much to invest into culture production, but I just don't have any nice alternatives, and at least it means that I maybe don't fall too much behind DiddleySquat, who has gone for a lot of culture production now with Bach, so it is still nice, I think, to get those dramas going, increase my culture production by 4, using the free population, and the alternatives are just not that great. I keep the 2 events in hand and will draw 2 more cards, and I was happy to see the classic army tactic, so if I should get Rifleman, I have a tactic to work with. Allfather this turn seeds, so the new deposits are revealed, which I was happy to see, so that DiddleySquat maybe has some problems with this revolution. And Allfather, for him it's of course quite nice that all new deposits were revealed after he went for the coal. Now he has a lot of resource saved up that might really boost his economy now. He is willing to go for Newton this turn, goes for the alchemy, increases his science production like this up to 5. That makes it that he has just enough science to go for the selective breeding at the next turn if he wants to. Of course he can also just finish the Silk Road if he wants to. And yeah, so he just focuses on increasing his economy, also takes the opera to have an option in hand to produce maybe some culture later on. Now it's DiddleySquat's turn. I was really interested to see if he still just does the revolution, even though he has not only 4 corruption, but just also not enough blue tokens to make his production afterwards. I think it could still definitely be an option, just getting the 8 civil actions going. Maybe I would do it, but he has also a way to somehow use those resources nicely. So he goes for the Statue of Liberty, as I will now have even more population available, which can be nice with Bach. And delays the revolution, can maybe do the revolution then at the next turn. Is willing to build a swordsman, which is sadly for him just not enough to get out of corruption. And yeah, maybe at the next turn it will be better or easier for him to do the revolution. This turn I noted the developed territory is on top, and it was really the question for me if I should cede or not. Of course I don't want to cede the autonomous territory, but I could think about ceding the national pride, which of course very likely will result in DiddleySquat getting 5 additional culture, but at least I get 2 culture for ceding, so it's only a 3 culture swing against him. If I think that it is quite important to open the developed territory now, then maybe it could be worth it. And I just thought it could be nice to open it now, because now I would win tie breaks, I can rebuild the military immediately. If I don't go for it, I could maybe have a nice turn with going for 2 scientific method upgrades, but even if I don't open the colony, I might, instead of going for 2 upgrades, maybe rather go for only 1 upgrade, because 2 upgrades I think are not enough to get me out of corruption, and I could increase my population and maybe build a warrior if I want to. So even if I win it, then I can just rebuild it, maybe still go for 1 scientific method upgrade, and at the end I made a decision to cede, and I was willing to at least bid an army and a card, maybe even 3 units. That of course would be quite costly, but as you can also see, the Suez Canal is coming down the road, so just having 1 more colony will result in quite a bit of additional resource over the course of the game, and also makes it less likely that one of my opponents will maybe take it away. I mean, Allfather can't take it away anyway because he has the Silk Road. And at the end I am able to win it, and I have to send an army, but I don't have to send my colonization cards at least, which is nice. And in this turn I said I will go for the scientific method for 1 upgrade, I will increase my population and build a warrior, and as we can see, the 1 blue token from the developed territory actually maybe was the reason to even manage for me to get out of corruption, so I think that was maybe also one of the reasons why I really wanted to open it now. And now, I think otherwise I actually would have maybe just gone for 2 upgrades and taken corruption, but like this I can get out of corruption, I can rebuild a warrior immediately, I have a second colony now ongoing, and then I just wanted to also get some science production going. Sadly still no government form, so those are a bit late, but maybe at the next turn the chance should be relatively good that 1 is finally available. I draw 2 cards, 2 pacts, so I can maybe offer 1 of those pacts to the next turn, because I don't want to see the autonomous territory into the deck. Allfather, after having gone for Newton and Alchemy, has not just enough science to go for the selective breeding, wants to get his food production going, that will just leave him with enough food to increase his population at the next turn, plays the cultural heritage with the Silk Road bonus, takes the journalism, which could allow him to get an even bigger Newton bonus at some point, can maybe even build a journalism at the next turn if he wants to. And yeah, so he's just again focusing on upgrading his economy. DiddleySquat is going for the revolution this turn, has again 4 corruption, but yeah, just to get those 8 civil actions going, I think it should be worth it. And then yeah, I was definitely a bit I respected his position, because he is definitely producing a bit of a culture lead and has not a lot of civil actions, but he is still low in science. I will be able to get the Suez Canal and the Republic at my turn, so I was also not too unhappy about what I have going. And this turn I have to make the decision which pact I want to offer, and I will go for the Republic this turn, but it's not certain if the scientific cooperation would be accepted, and Allfather has also some technologies that they can invest into, I think, if I remember it correctly, journalisms, some other stuff maybe, so At the end I just went for maybe the safer pact. I went for some additional food, because I at the moment have some resource saved up. I will have some nice resource production when I go for the Suez Canal. I have no selective breeding yet, and so I thought it should be just quite nice to get some additional food going. And then this turn I will go for the Republic Revolution. There's also a common, but it's available for more expensive, and while it could be nice to maybe have more military actions to go for potential strength push, I just thought Republic is just more value, and if I get strategy or military theory, I can still go for a strength push at some point. Then I want to, of course, take the Suez Canal. I thought for a little moment about ocean liner service, because I still need a fix for my population, and I thought if maybe I want to deny it from DiddleySquat, because it could be a nice way to invest his resources. He could just take and finish it, but he already has a lot of food production, a relatively nice yellow bank, so I thought he might still go for it, but it's not that strong for him that I need to take it away from him, and the Suez Canal I think is just quite a bit stronger for me. Also, if I should miss out on the strategy, the military action from the autonomous territory might be very, very important, so I think the Suez Canal is definitely just better for me in this situation. Then I also wanted to get one more upgrade to my labs going. I will still be able to finish the Suez Canal at the next turn, and getting some more science should be quite nice. And then I have some different options for my last civil action. I really considered to take the Rifleman here. It would mean corruption, which is a bit annoying, but it would just guarantee that I can go for the classic army tactic. But I would have corruption, and with both of my opponents being on swordsman, I just thought there is maybe a chance that I will still get a copy of Rifleman at the next turn, and if not, then there is maybe a chance that I get a copy of modern infantry at some point. I was not really fearing that my opponents will go for a big strength push, and yeah, with me not having any aggressions or wars in hand, who knows if I will really want to go for it. There is a chance that I will just get still a copy of Rifleman the next turn, so I was not willing to take corruption, and I went out of corruption with building one step. And then the question is, do I want to take anything for one civil action, or do I just want to build a second step? Frugality could be a fine card, Opera with having already dramas is not that great, Navigation could be interesting, but I don't draw any cards, and maybe it's not that likely that my opponents have seeded a lot of colonies. So with that, and a rich land could be nice for the selective breeding upgrades. That I think was the card that I considered the most, because maybe it could give me more resources if and maybe could allow it that I finish the Suez Canal and go for some selective breeding upgrades, maybe even two. But that also requires a lot of civil actions, and especially if I don't build a step, I just don't think I will have the civil actions to do this. There might be strategy, which could be a card that I want to take. If Riflemen or cannons are available, maybe those could be cards that I want to take. So I just don't think I have enough civil actions to finish the Suez Canal and go for selective breeding upgrades at the next turn. And with that, and with generally me maybe having to do a lot of stuff at the next turn, I rather went for just building the step. Then I keep the tactic, the colony, and a colonization card in hand. Allfather will seed and opens the immigration. No one loses any population. He will develop the journalism with the breakthrough using the Silk Road bonus this turn. He could now just increase his population and build the Silk Road. Build journalism. That could give him a big boost. Maybe he could consider not finishing the Silk Road, but the Silk Road might just still provide him quite a bit of value over the course of the game. Also starting some culture production with it now is maybe not too bad, so I think it's maybe the correct decision. First of all, building this knight makes him the strongest now instead of the weakest, and then he can just finish the Silk Road and gets also with that some additional economy going. So I think that looks like a good turn, and with that he doesn't take the Rifleman. This copy of Rifleman will stay on 2 civil actions, so I was really hoping that I might get a chance to take the Rifleman, and who knows, maybe also the strategy, because it will stay on 3 of DiddleySquat has maybe some issues to get out of corruption, and as we can see, he is actually willing to miss out on a strategy, is just taking and finishing the ocean liner service, at least having only 2 corruption done, and then he takes the cavalryman to have at least one more technology in hand, but he misses out on the cannons, misses out on the strategy. I know that he doesn't have the classic army, but of course he will now at some point be able to copy the conquistadors tactic, so yeah. But I definitely also think that plays very reasonable. There are 2 copies of military theory, and yeah, I mean he has a lot of population already, but there's also a red cross in the game, and maybe he at the end will be able to use actually all of the population. Now it's my turn. I can't really use my politics phase. I will just finish the Suez Canal, get the autonomous territory, I will end up taking 4 science from that. I think everything could be considered here, but the science will actually be useful this turn because it allows me to develop the rifleman and the strategy, which at the end I will do. Also just to spend my civil actions nicely. And yeah, so at the end I just took the science because I thought it might just still be nice to have a lot of science lying around. I definitely wanted to take the rifleman here, I definitely wanted to take the strategy here. Then I have 3 civil actions left. Increasing my population already gets me out of corruption, so that was something that I wanted to do. And no, I don't have the trade routes agreement any longer, so I couldn't spend a resource for it. I will then develop the rifleman. I have 4 military actions, so maybe using the one free one to go for an upgrade every turn could be nice. But I actually will have even 2 free ones, because with my last civil action I will develop the strategy already. With that I'm the strongest. Allfather did put a little bit of effort into getting stronger, so maybe there are some strength events coming, and so I made a decision, and thanks to the additional science from the autonomous territory I'm able to do this, to go for both rifleman and the strategy. I could have played the revolutionary idea instead, I could have taken engineering genius, but I just at the end thought it's maybe not too bad to be the strongest, maybe put a bit of pressure on DiddleySquat. He will lose the open borders agreement, will be back to 2 military actions, so maybe this being on 17 strength is already a bit threatening for him, and so that was at the end my choice for the turn. And with my draws that I will be getting now from H2, but also from the Colossus, Vlada is definitely pushing me a bit into the war direction. I draw 2 H2 wars and 1 H3 war. I have the classic army tactic in hand. So if DiddleySquat isn't careful, he's known to military actions, I could definitely punish him at the next turn, and I have a lot of military actions. I could even go for some H2 wars and still draw some cards. So I definitely thought after those draws that my next turns might be a bit military heavy, but of course it depends on how well DiddleySquat prepares for defending. Allfather seeds and a popularization of science is revealed. That gives me a bit of additional culture against DiddleySquat, so that is definitely nice. Allfather could just go for the conman this turn, but actually instead he rather goes for the team sports, which is interesting, because the conman definitely could have given him a nice boost, and now he's delaying it, but maybe there weren't that many interesting other cards to take, so maybe it's fine. Maybe he was afraid of a civil unrest, maybe he has even knowledge about one, and so he builds the team sports generally to have the team sports. That's of course quite nice with Pierre being in the game, but it could have been maybe also an idea to just go for the conman. Now it's DiddleySquat's turn, and he, of course, I was curious to see how well he will prepare for the military. He is maybe a bit afraid of potential aggressions, maybe even potential double aggressions, so he is going for a second legion tactic. He is now heavily committed on swordsman, so that could potentially be bad for him. And there are some interesting options in the row. There's multimedia, he could go for scientific method upgrades already this turn, so a lot of interesting stuff. So I was interested to see what he will do, and he will maybe just go for the safe approach, takes the science from the revolutionary idea and the military theory. I think not taking the military theory would be very, very greedy, so I think he makes the right decision. He has a bit of a culture lead, and maybe just wants to avoid getting hit by something bad. I have now a lot of military actions, could have some tactics, so yeah, he just wants to be prepared for that, and with that I have to think about if going for a war is even the correct decision for my next turn. Especially because there are some interesting alternatives coming down the road. There's multimedia and Einstein coming down the road. With having Robespierre, maybe want to have an early replacement for him. And while I could go for war now, I also don't have the most population. And DiddleySquat can go for the military theory, can maybe even just go for another legion tactic, without even maybe having to delete too much stuff. So with having this nice alternative option available, I actually made a decision to not go for a war, and instead seeded a freedom of movement into the deck. With going for multimedia, I should be able to use that nicely to maybe put a scientific method into multimedia later on. And while I don't get a war going, at least I also noted the international agreement is still in the deck, and I am the strongest at the moment, and so I will be able to potentially win it this turn, and I indeed open it. And while it could potentially be bad to not have the option to play my politics phase the next turn, and especially if DiddleySquat is maybe leaving himself vulnerable, I still at the end was willing to take it. It's just a lot of value, getting 5 additional civil actions, and with taking those cards, some other cards are falling down for cheaper. Multimedia is now available for cheaper. Mechanized Agriculture, the card that I was eyeing, is available for cheaper. The Engineering is available for cheaper, so That just produces me a lot of value. The international agreement can definitely be a very, very swingy event, and I think here it's really providing me tons of value, and could even make it that I can use the urban growth immediately this turn when I build a multimedia, so I was very, very happy to use it. Before switching to Einstein, I will use the military actions from Robespierre. I will copy to Conquistadors, which makes me the strongest for now. I could also just um, just play the classic army tactic, but I maybe don't want to reveal it too quickly to my opponents. But even bigger reason is that I actually won't go for an upgrade from warrior to rifleman this turn. It will have a specific reason. And with that, the classic army would still be outdated, which would mean that I would not be the strongest with revealing it. So instead I copy to the Conquistadors. Then I will elect Einstein and I will just go for the multimedia. My first instinct was of course to use the urban growth that I have just taken with the international agreement. That would, I think, not be enough to get me out of corruption. I would still need to spend a little bit of stuff, but I could just easily do it with going for one upgrade. And then I could maybe just reveal the classic army tactic, maybe even put a little bit of pressure again on DiddleySquat, even though of course he can just develop the military theory if he wants to. But that would mean that he can't go for scientific method, so it might still be nice. But at the end, I came to the conclusion that I actually don't want to use the urban growth and instead build a multimedia just without it. And the reason for that I will explain at the end of my turn. Let's just take a look at the turn first. I will build a multimedia without the urban growth. I will take the mechanized agriculture. I will take the engineering, which I think can provide me still a lot of value, even though I invested already in one multimedia. And then with the last civil action, I could think about a cavalryman to be more flexible for tactics, but at the end I just went for the bro sports. It's a very cheap technology. I don't have a happy face solution yet for the now. I don't really need it, but at some point I might still need one. Bro sports is nice for a lot of impact, so that at the end was the last card that I wanted to take. And no, I could have just played the turn with using the urban growth and with going for one more upgrade already, having a bit more strength lying around. But I have really not the most blue tokens. I have +1 from the developed territory, but -3 from the 2 other colonies. So as you can see, I have only 2 blue tokens lying around at my farms, but already I'm just barely out of corruption basically. So I have to be I thought about what I want to do at the next turn. And if I, for example, would have used the urban growth now and gone for the upgrade, I also would have 9 resources at the next turn. And then I thought I probably want to go for mechanized agriculture the next turn. I can't increase my population, so I can't build another building, and I might still need some food production. It would also be nice for potential Red Cross. So I thought I want to go for one upgrade to mechanized agriculture, but spending 6 resources for the upgrade is not enough to get me out of corruption. At the next turn, I will have 3 food lying around, meaning I basically have to spend all of my resources if I want to get out of corruption. And if I would have used the urban growth and gone for this upgrade already, then I would have just had to accept corruption at the next turn, but now I can go for the mechanized agriculture upgrade and can then do the upgrade at the next turn, spend all of my resources and just use the urban growth when I hopefully will go for another multimedia or drama at some point. So with using the urban growth, I just would have corruption at the next turn unless an event will help me. But now I will have a clear way how I can get out of corruption, and it will also be very nice because at the next turn I will then be at +5 instead of +1 because of the international trade agreement, meaning in 2 turns I will have 8 food lying around, just enough for 2 more populations, meaning I can spend all of my food, meaning that also in 2 turns I hopefully will have a nice way to get out of corruption even though I'm low in blue tokens. And then I will draw some cards, and I get the modern army tactic. That could be interesting with still having a war in hand. It could still be an interesting option to have, and also another colonization card in case there's maybe another colony coming. Allfather this turn will go for the constitutional monarchy, has now a decent amount of civil and military action, plays the reserves for food to increase his population, builds the journalism that will increase his science production by quite a bit, also his culture production. He takes the movies, takes Chaplin and takes the reserves, and with Chaplin in the movies he has the potential to go for a lot of culture production. Now it's DiddleySquat's turn. He upgrades from religion to drama And after that will switch to Marlene Dietrich. After that he doesn't really need the happy face from the religion any longer. And maybe Marlene will also be helpful for the military. He builds one cavalryman, another one is now 22 strength, takes another revolutionary idea and plays this one, so he has now some additional science thanks to the revolutionary ideas. Maybe at the next turn can develop the military theory. It is quite helpful for him, I think, that he doesn't draw any cards, so maybe he could have played the turn a bit different, but then maybe it would be quite difficult for him to get out of corruption. And maybe also, I mean, with developing the military theory, also would have gotten stronger. So, but maybe he just didn't want to have that much corruption. Now it is my turn. I can't use my politics phase because I used the international agreement at the turn before. And this turn I can just go for developing mechanized agriculture, and thanks to not having used the urban growth, I can now, and especially to not having done this upgrade yet, I can do it now, and that will allow me to get out of corruption. And then it was also quite clear for me that I want to have the space flight. It has just the potential to be a 30 plus wonder at the end for me, with having already quite a lot of science production, and should just be the best wonder probably for me. If I don't go for it, there are Red Cross and Empire State Building left. Empire State Building could maybe be an interesting one. I maybe would be able to win some categories, but it's always a bit uncertain. And the Red Cross could potentially also be nice for me with the mechanized agriculture, but it could definitely also be the DiddleySquat will take it away. So I really wanted to have the space flight, and with my last two civil actions I then took the tanks because I've drawn the modern army tactic, and I just played the revolutionary idea to get the science going already this turn. And this turn I have a free military action. Now I have upgraded my warrior driveman, so I've revealed a classic army tactic because that will make me the strongest, so it makes a difference immediately. And also it's now already quite late, so it's not too bad to reveal it now, even though of course it could still help my opponents a little bit. I draw some cards, one impact now, the impact of government. That's definitely a decent one, especially if I should get civil service, then it hopefully will be a fine impact for me. Allfather this turn could potentially just start going for Chaplain, but maybe doesn't want to commit to him yet. Instead he goes for the Manhattan Project, takes the computers, develops them, and then also increases population to get out of corruption and builds the first step of the Manhattan Project already. Can maybe finish it with Newton, and then after that switch to Chaplain. But he also misses out on a lot of culture production. Maybe he just wants to go for a bit of military. Maybe that is his hope to come back into the game, because he is definitely quite a bit behind. I was actually quite happy that I'm still not that far behind in culture, so they're building those two dramas earlier, and of course also now getting Einstein and multimedia really made it that I am not too much behind, even though DiddleySquat went for those dramas with Bach very early. And yeah, but Allfather is quite behind, so maybe he's hoping for something with the military. But if he's hoping for something like that, maybe he should take the air forces, but maybe he's also saying he needs to take a lot of risks, and maybe he just has to hope that he will still get a copy of Air Forces one of the following turns. So maybe that is the reason for the Manhattan Project, but maybe it could still be an idea to just start some culture production with Chaplain now. But maybe he felt a little bit vulnerable. I just revealed a classic army tactic. If I get Air Forces, I can maybe go for a war with building one. Maybe he was a bit afraid of that, and the Manhattan Project, of course, then is also helpful for defense. DiddleySquat will go for the military theory, which makes him the strongest again, also makes it that he will get more draws in, and he will then again use some military actions, builds one cavalryman, takes military build-up engineering genius in the air forces and the rockets, takes a lot of cards from the row, and then copies the conquistador tactic. Can't copy the classic army tactic yet, with that he's at 36 strength, meaning that I and Allfather have to be a bit concerned about it. Maybe he can't easily invest into something nice without leaving him too vulnerable with his low science production, so he maybe just puts a little bit of pressure now on me and Allfather, so that maybe we also can't easily invest into just more culture producing urban buildings or something like this. Now it is my turn. I want to use my politics phase and see the impact of government into the deck. The event revealed is the iconoclasm, and Allfather will lose Newton, which is definitely bad for him. It might cost him some culture when he will finish the Manhattan Project, and also of course will miss out on saving some civil actions, and maybe if he wants to keep him for one more turn on some science production. I this turn can increase my population even 2 times if I want to, and of course I have to be a bit concerned about the strength push from DiddleySquat. On one hand, I have to make sure that they can defend against potential war, but I also want to be able to defend against an aggression. And I can actually already defend against aggression with having those 2 colonization cards in hand, but at the end I made a decision to still go for the cannons, build one. This gets me out of corruption. I think building another multimedia now would just be way too greedy, and I just rather want to play it safe, use one of my free military actions. Also, I will take a lot of cards now, and there is a small chance that maybe the age could even end before my next turn, so developing the cannons might also be quite important to still have the option to go for the modern army tactic. And now I will take the air forces, definitely something that I want to have to be very safe. And then I take the reserves, the urban growth and the efficient upgrade, just some yellow cards that I will hopefully be able to use very nicely. If I should draw an impact like Impact of Agriculture Balance, then it could still be nice to go for another farm upgrade. And so, yeah. I just wanted to have all of those yellow cards, wanted to have the air forces, but now I will take a lot of cards from the rows. There will only be 10 cards left in Allfather's turn. Both of my opponents have a reasonable amount of civil actions. I thought I hopefully will have another turn in H3, which could also be important to maybe get some more draws in. But there is maybe a small chance that the H will end, and with that I rather committed to a cannon instead of, for example, just going for an upgrade to tanks and keeping the population still available. And yeah, with that I'm definitely can defend against an aggression, and I also should be able to defend against the wall with just being able to go for tanks and air forces, and for then having modern army with air forces. I will draw some cards. Sadly no impact. I have definitely a bunch of nice impacts, so I was not too happy about it, but I have at least impact of government in, and hopefully maybe have another chance to draw an impact at the next turn. Allfather's turn finishes the Manhattan Project. It's definitely a nice way now for him to make sure that they can defend against an aggression and to not be the weakest. Sadly, he misses out on some culture because of having lost Newton. That's definitely bad for him. He could have also saved a civil action, could have saved another civil actions when electing chaplain, could have produced more science this turn, so it's just yeah, a big value loss for him. He copies the classic army tactic that makes him even the strongest, and I definitely have to be a bit careful. He could go for modern infantry, go for another classic army tactic at the next turn, so I definitely have to make sure that they can defend against a potential war from him. DiddleySquat will seed, opens the National Pride that was seeded by me, with knowing that it most likely will benefit DiddleySquat, and sadly it will now at the end benefit DiddleySquat. He will go for the Red Cross. That's a very nice wonder for him. He has a lot of food saved up anyway. We'll get more population still with the Ocean Liner service, and then he builds the Cavalryman. Builds another Cavalryman, is now at 47 strength, maybe again wants to be a bit dangerous, plays the Revolutionary Idea. The next turn he has enough science to develop democracy if he wants to, which will produce him 4 additional culture with the statue, will allow him to build another drama, so that could result in a lot of culture. He could have alternatively even built 4 stages of the Red Cross already this turn, but which would mean that he maybe gets one more step going. But yeah, the democracy has just the potential to produce him a lot of culture together with the additional drama. Might also be nice for some impact, so it might be worth it to give Allfather an additional step, because I would have gotten a step anyway, and Allfather is maybe just too much behind at this point, so it's maybe he doesn't have to be concerned about the swing against him, just about the 6 culture that he loses, and the democracy with the additional drama should already produce more culture. I don't have an impact, so I offer the military alliance to Allfather. Sadly, it gets rejected. He maybe doesn't want to help me out. My main reason to offer it to him was because it could make it a bit more easy for me to defend against an aggression from DiddleySquat, but sadly Allfather doesn't want to make this deal and rejects the pact. I will build 1 stage of DiddleySquat's Red Cross. That's definitely something that I want to do. And then of course I have to be a bit careful about potential wars, about a potential war from Allfather, but also about an aggression from DiddleySquat. And so I will go for the tanks. I will also go for the civil service because Impact of Government is coming, and it's just a very nice card to develop. So I will go for that, and then I will go for 1 upgrade to tanks, and I can reveal the tactic. And if I would have now 3 additional strength from the military alliance, then even though I have to discard this H2 colonization card with being at 37 strength, I would have just enough strength to defend also with only 1 H3 defense card. So meaning I wouldn't have to be concerned about building more strength, which could especially be nice because I would still get 3 draws in, but now with the pact being rejected, I don't want to be greedy because even though I sadly don't have an impact in hand at the moment, and even though DiddleySquat will get a red cross, I will get a big space flight, I will get some more Einstein activations, so I was hoping that I have a decent position to win this game. But it could be a bit tricky with me not having an additional nice impact to the impact of government, so that could be a bit tricky, but I was hoping that I have a decent position. With that, I was not willing to take any big risks. But it definitely hurt missing out on this one draw. And then it was really the question, how much am I willing to invest? Because I really wanted to develop the engineering, build another multimedia using this H2 urban growth before I will lose it to the end of the age. And with building the multimedia, it will even allow me to get another technology out for additional culture for Einstein, for the space flight. It could just be very, very big. And I think I actually was able to build a multimedia while still being able to threaten enough strength to win the war. But again, with me thinking that I hopefully should have a nice position, I again was not willing to take any risks, and the spaceflight that I have is a really big wonder. I think maybe I was only able to tie against the war, or maybe only win it by 1, I don't remember it exactly. But I just thought maybe there's a chance that Allfather could go for war, and just because he maybe has some hopes that I will still go for the space flight, or that he wants to remove the space flight from me, maybe that could be his best out that he sees, and so I didn't want to play it too greedily. I mean, I kind of wanted to, because DiddleySquat will get the red cross, the democracy, fourth drama. I was definitely not totally certain that I have good chances to win the game, or that but I still thought I have relatively good chances, and with that I was not willing to play too greedy, but it was a very close decision, because maybe I will miss the culture that I miss out on now with not building the multimedia at the end, with Allfather going for the war, but especially I was a bit afraid, because with building this multimedia and then losing 2 yellow tokens, I will have a lot of unhappy workers, and then if I only can barely manage to win the war, only tie the war, Allfather could definitely think about just going for the war for disruption to prevent me from finishing the space flight, maybe causing some destruction, and so at the end I wanted to leave myself with enough resource saved up that I can threaten to win the war by even quite a bit of a margin, so that there hopefully is no danger of a war at all. I take the reserves for some additional resources, also the patriotism, which could maybe allow me to put 1 more merc into the military. I wanted to go for the sufficient upgrade to mechanized agriculture, because now I can actually go for 2 more population at the next turn, and I thought I might actually be able to use all of those populations. And it could still be nice for some impacts that I might draw, or maybe could potentially be seeded, even though it's maybe unlikely. So I wanted to get this going, and then I still wanted to use this H2 urban growth, but I, as said, was not willing to invest into the multimedia, which I think would also mean that I don't have enough resource to go for this food upgrade, and instead I just build 1 drama for free, get some additional culture reduction now, and then at the next turn I will have to see if I think I have just enough resources to potentially build another multimedia in addition to the space float. I think actually not, I have 12, 24, so I could just build spaceflight multimedia, but maybe just going for pro sports and then some other stuff could be better, prepare me better for impacts. But there are not that many impacts seeded, so yeah, but I have some options at the next turn. And with this turn I should be completely safe from a war and also from an aggression. My last civil action I played the reserves resources, and I was very happy to see that I get 1 more impact. I have quite a bunch of nice ones, so but still it was very nice to see it, and the impact of progress should give me some additional points, and with that I was now definitely more confident that I maybe can win this game if I should miss out on an impact. Then I would have been quite a bit less confident. And now H4 will start, it's Allfather's turn, he can't really go for a war now, instead he seeds and the prosperity is revealed. He will elect Chaplain, develop the movies, goes for some culture reduction this turn, builds 1 step of the red cross, takes the tanks, that will produce him some culture when he develops the tanks in the modern infantry the next turn with the Colosseum. Then DiddleySquat will finish the red cross. With that he has a bit of a culture lead, especially because he will now also be able to go for the democracy, and it allows him to build another drama. And as we can see, it's not only nice for the culture reduction, it's also nice to just have it for the happy faces. And then he takes the satellites away, which is probably a wise decision, because at my turn I could have developed it, and I actually have the impact of progression in hand, so he denies me some points here. Then he copies to the classic army tactic, making him the strongest again. Now it's my turn. I of course want to see the impact of progress into the deck, even with missing out on satellites, it's still a nice impact, and also there is the chance that the freedom of movement is revealed, which improves my turn, and it is revealed indeed. I will put the scientific method into multimedia, and then I will develop the bro sports, play the reserves for resources, finish the spaceflight for 31 points. Now with having made this move from scientific method to multimedia, I can't build an additional multimedia, and instead I just, with this urban growth, can build one bro sports for free. That's nice for a lot of impacts, and Book of Happiness is now a lot better, and that could definitely be an impact that might be in there, and with DiddleySquat having a lot of happy faces, and with them also putting quite a bit of effort into getting this fourth drama going. It's also nice for impact of variety, could be nice for impact of competition, architecture, strength, so that should just be very nice to have. And then with my remaining civil actions, I increase my population 2 times, I build a mine, and then I can play the patriotism and also build 1 knight, meaning now I also have a 24 harmony. The mine also helps me for potential impact of balance. I mean, I didn't really think that it might be in there, but who knows. And then also 1 more knight is nice to have. I could have also not built a mine and then a cannon instead or something, but I thought a mine makes a bigger difference than having the difference between having a cannon or knight. And at the end of my turn, I was relatively happy about my position. Now that I have drawn the impact of progress, as we can see after I have produced culture, I'm now a little bit in the lead, and I have now 2 nice impacts coming. I thought I have really good chances. The only danger that I saw was that if both impact of culture and impact of strength are in there, and if maybe Allfather also makes it that he is better in both of those than me, so that he gets the 2nd place in both of those and DiddleySquat the 1st one. Or maybe just in one of those the 2nd place and the other one the 3rd. I get a 2nd place. That, if both of those impacts are in there, that could be dangerous, but all of the other impacts should maybe not be big enough to be really threatening. Allfather plays the reserves for resources, another reserves for resources, builds 1 more multimedia, goes for 1 computer upgrade. It's now at 13 science production. He has seeded 1 impact into the deck. He has now the most science production, so maybe there's impact of science in there, which would be nice for me, because it would score me some points against DiddleySquat. Then he develops the tanks and the modern infantry for some additional points, and takes the multimedia. And then, as we just saw, I have a 3 culture lead before DiddleySquat, so it's definitely quite close at the moment. I was hoping that I have good chances with me being relatively nicely prepared for impacts, and Allfather is just too much behind, so he should be out of the game. The first impact is one of mine impacts, the impact of government. It gives me +3 against both of my opponents. The next impact is neither impact of strength nor culture, which I was very happy to see. The impact of happiness is indeed in there, so building the bro spots did score me some points. Now it's +16 for everyone. And the other impact that I don't have knowledge about is actually the impact of agriculture, interestingly, maybe seeded by Allfather. And now with having 2 farm upgrades, I am now even at +14 in that impact. And then the impact of progress will also give me some more points than DiddleySquat, meaning that I will finish at 20 points before DiddleySquat. And I did get +8 out of the 2 impacts that I didn't have knowledge about. So without any impacts from my opponents, he would be 12 culture behind me. So with something like impact of strength or impact of culture, even if Allfather doesn't occupy the 2nd place in one of those, DiddleySquat definitely could have had still a chance to win it, but I was prepared for quite a lot of impacts. Of course, if Allfather gets stronger or gets more culture production now, and impact of culture is in there. Actually, Allfather has now even overtaken DiddleySquat's impact of culture would not be as big, but an impact of strength also not be that big, but there could have been definitely a combination of impacts where DiddleySquat could still be the winner of this game. and especially without impact of progress, it could have been quite problematic. I would have still won the game now with the impacts that we saw, but it would have been closer definitely. And yeah, so at the end, I am able to win this game. I'm definitely happy about it. Nice Suez Canal game. I went for Caesar and Colossus at the beginning, went for Columbus, and at the end, I got rewarded with getting the Suez Canal. I definitely got a bit lucky with those colony draws in H2. First getting Vast Territory 2 with the Colossus for Columbus, and then getting Autonomous. That definitely boosted my position quite a bit. I was quite a bit afraid at times from DiddleySquat's position. After he managed to get the Republic Revolution done and starting to produce a culture lead with Bach and just having that many resources lying around. But he had some science issues basically the whole game, and with that maybe just couldn't invest the resources nicely enough, still made it very close. But with me also getting some nice solutions, some nice peaceful solutions at the beginning of H3 with Einstein, Multimedia and then Spaceflight, I at the end managed to score more culture. And Allfather was probably a bit behind most of the games and most of the times in this game. And yeah, so he did build up some decent economy, but just fall behind in culture and then didn't find a nice way to catch up the culture at the end of the game. Alright, with that the game is finished. We can take again a quick look at the standings. Not a lot of has changed there because yeah, the most important things are already clear, but we can still take a quick look at those. And as you can see, I am now at 32 points in the standings, so quite a nice result so far. And I have now also the chance to score 4 more points if I should win the last 2-player game against DiddleySquat. We will also take a look at this game. And yeah, and the other remaining game is a 2-player game from DiddleySquat against Maku. But as said, everything, the most important things are already clear for this group. So yeah, we will already know how it will end, which players will move to which stage. But yeah, yeah, hopefully you are still looking forward to the last 2-player game, especially maybe for those of you who are especially interested in 2-player games. Those are also always a bit quicker for me to record. And yeah, then I hope it was an interesting game for you. Thanks for watching, and then see you in the next video, the last video of this stage.